There are 5 non-negotiables. And if you don't do those 5 things, forget about it.
Let's go.
This game's going to beat you to death. So my job is to make it fun first. And then as you amplify your desires to be better, I just meet you.
Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hitstreak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder. And folks, I've got an extra special treat for you today. Joining me in the Hit Lab, it is his 4th time on the Hitstreak, which is tied for first for the most appearances on the podcast. All I know is we must be doing something right because we keep doing it and it keeps getting better. So without further ado, folks, check it out. You know him. He's a renowned TEDx speaker, a PGA professional, a podcaster, a best-selling author. You've seen him on Apple TV's Office Hours, and he's the golf analyst for News Channel 5. My dude, Virgil Herring. Virg, how we doing, baby?
Man, I'm doing great. It's nice to be in that rarefied air with family as the most seen here on the Hitstreak. So it's an honor to be here. I'm grateful.
Well, I guess that makes you family.
I'm very fortunate. It feels like I'm a brother from another mother, man. I'm very grateful.
Well, fun fact, folks, you don't know this as you're listening to this with us today, but Virgil and I just literally finished filming an episode for his podcast, which then we took 10 minutes, flipped the chairs around. Jensen did what he does here in the studio to bring the Hitstreak to life and flip the set. And so we've been jamming all morning. So this is going to be really good.
Yeah, this is going to be great.
So, Virg, since the last time that you were in, you had just literally a TEDx speech had launched, and it has dude, has it caught some fire, and it's opened tons of doors, and we're really going to get into where you were at when all this was happening and what you've turned this into, because it's unbelievable. Okay, so talk to me about that speech, because I listened to it over and over again. It's 15 minutes ago. You got to check it out on YouTube. And it made me love fruit.
you know, when I got the word that I was going to be able to do the TED Talk, which was in March of 23.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. I always dreamed of doing a TED Talk because I was inspired by John Wooden's, and his was one of the original ones that exploded. Mm-hmm. And I love John Wooden. I think he might be the greatest coach of all time in any sport, but if he's not, he's on the Mount Rushmore. That's for right. Sure. And all I wanted to figure out was I wanted to be able to be recognized as something other than a golf teacher. The time that I spoke before my TED Talk, I'm standing off the side of the stage and I'm being introduced, and I was speaking for a law firm here in town. And as I'm being introduced, there are people sitting just in a table over here. There's why in the bleep did we bring a bleeping golf professional in here to talk to us? And it hit me wrong. I'm like, how? I can't stand to be prejudged. How do you know what I'm going to talk about? And what does me being a golf professional have anything to do with impacting anybody here at just a little bit? And so I'm going, what can I do in my TEDx talk that separates myself? I'm not going to talk about golf. I'm going to talk about something that matters to everybody. But I also want to be able to keep it close enough to what I do that I don't have to do all this preparation to talk, because it's something that I talk about all the time. So my sister's a Marine, and she was involved in some serious conflict in Iraq and Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. And her husband is largely one of the highest ranking Marines in the world. Now they're now both out, but at the time doesn't get much higher up than he was. And I just wanted to figure out what is it that y'all do to be great? And then this was before I even really did the thing about the TED Talk. And then they're talking about the training and what it's like to get up in the higher level echelons of the Marine Corps. And I'm like, well, that seems awful similar to what Vince Lombardi talked about, John Wooden seemed to talk about, and then anybody else that's great. Steve Jobs, when I read his book, they're all doing the same thing. So now I'm thinking to myself, man, I can talk about what it takes to be great in a way that covers every platform without having to use the word golf or anything that I've ever done as a golf professional, and give me the opportunity to be introduced not as two-time PGA Teacher of the Year, former Golf Channel coach, Virgil Herring, I get to be introduced as TEDx talker and former Golf Channel and PGA teaching professional Virgil Herring. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. So I went on a mission to create content that would be good. Now, what I realized was I got to make people laugh. I got to make people cry if I can, a little bit, because that tagging those emotions to what it is that you're doing, it gives you, it ties you to the people because you've touched them. And one of my main lines is that before you ask for somebody's hand, you got to touch their heart. If you're going to lead somebody, touch their heart before you ask for their hand. So I went about it in that way. So I came up with this thing, and I came up with an acronym. I'm big with acronyms because I'm trying to help you remember it.
Right.
And it became, what is the fruit that you will reap if you follow a championship process? You will get a P.E.A.R. And that acronym is growth mindset, which is you believe that with the proper training and the proper information, you can do whatever it is that you put your mind to. Fixed mindset is you're doomed to whatever was preordained for you and you have no control over the outcome. E is embracing the challenges of life. Whatever's coming your way, you don't really have a choice. You better embrace it. But if you can embrace it with that competitive spirit, like I know this thing called life is a mean son of a gun, but I'm not backing down and I'm going to embrace it. The T is take action. There's a lot of people out there that say, yeah, coach, I'm ready to learn whatever it takes to be great, and I'm not afraid to embrace the challenge, but they never get off the sofa. I call them armchair quarterbacks. There's a big difference between Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and Patrick Mahomes and the armchair quarterbacks out there, right? They got to take action. Accountability is the A. Accountability to yourself. You can't expect other people to follow along with you if you're not accountable to yourself. So if you're not accountable to yourself, you can't expect others to be accountable to you. So that was huge. So that's the base of the tree. Those are the things. The P.E.A.R part, the fruit, is preparation. Now, we all know, I mean, we're both in sports since we could stand upright. You're having to prepare. But one of the things about preparing is it's not so much just about what it is that you want to occur, but you're learning how to have multiple game plans in your preparation. Execution. How are you going to execute it? So you have to be training. You have to be strong enough to do what you're trying to do, build the endurance that you got to do it with, all of those things, both physically and mentally. But in my opinion, the thing that separates the elite from the very good and the very good from the good is adaptability. If you can handle the fact that whoever you're trying to take down, whatever it is, whether it's a person or something that's inanimate, you're trying to become victorious over something. I can promise you that person or thing doesn't want to lose either. So it's going to try to take away your strengths. So adaptability in like, if I'm thinking of like, I love to pitch. I might have been better at pitching than I was anything in my life.
Okay.
I was known, I had a really good fastball, especially for my age. And I threw a really hard to hit curveball, one that rolls off the table. So what are people going to try to do? They're going to try to get me behind in the count so that they know they're going to get the fastball. So my game plan was to get up in the count. Well, if they're going to, I have to guarantee that I have the control to throw strikes early in it. But what if they start to hit me hard and I got to go from the stretch where I probably lose about 2 miles per hour on my fastball? So the ability to start the batter off with a curveball when they're expecting heat, or to work on that third pitch, which is something like more of a change up, a 3-fingered pitch, where my arm speed looks the same, but the ball's sitting deeper in my hand and it comes out just a little bit slower. And then knowing that when I get up in the count, they're expecting the curveball that's really hard to hit and not throw it to them. Layers of adaptability, because they're trying to take away what you do well. So if you're going to do that, then what's your next plan? And then, okay, now that they see that you've adapted, what are they going to do and be ahead of that? And then what are they going to do and be ahead of that? And I try to put in as many layers of adaptability so that I am less affected emotionally by my best attempts being thwarted, to have multiple game plans so that I'm less emotional, because almost every bad decision we make in our life is due to emotion. So I try to be on top of my game so that I sense like, oh, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to take away my curveball. Well, then I'm going to do this. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I went about my life, because that's the first thing that I was great at. So then I just drew parallels in everything that I do with as much adaptability as possible. And then the R is relentless resiliency. It's almost like an R squared. But the resiliency is so critical because life is going to hit you hard more than once. But if it didn't kill you, you just got to be able to get up off the mat.
Let's go.
And that's not easy. And I can tell you that I've been through plenty. And sometimes getting up off the mat felt harder than just laying there because it felt like I had been beaten. But I got back up. And just when I thought that there was no hope left, there was a whole another level of beauty that was coming into my life. I just didn't know when I was going through it, but I knew that I wasn't going to give up. And that's, of all the things that I would say that I'm proud of myself for, is I went through about a 2.5 year stretch, 3 year stretch where I had so much bad occur that I was actually starting to question my confidence, because every single thing that I was doing with the best intentions that I could ever put into something was failing every single time. And I'm just like, what am I supposed to be learning here? Because the only constant in all of these things is me.
Let's go.
I'm the person that's involved in it. Now, there's a lot of things that happened to me that I didn't do anything to get it, but it happened. So what am I doing I'm in this position? How am I drawing this to me? Am I drawing it? Is it a random occurrence? But golly, 3 years in a row of it? Maybe I need to pay close attention to what I'm doing. I know there's a lot of bad things happening that don't have me in it, but it's happening and I'm part of it. What am I doing? And I just went on a deep search of me. I can't control others. I can't control what other people do to me, but I can control how I respond. And I've gotten better at responding because I used to get emotional. I used to take it too personal.
That would be a reaction versus a response, right?
Yeah, that's right. And now I'm getting better at taking it less personal and getting better at seeing it for what it is and quickly adapting and moving forward. Just keep moving forward. Even if I only move forward an inch today, it's better than not.
Come on. That's right.
And to me, that's what my TED Talk did for me in the preparation phase, which was I was preparing myself to do something bigger than golf, knowing that golf was going to play a role in it, but being bigger than golf. And I knew that I needed something to focus on while I was going through hell. Something that was productive and powerful and meaningful, that I knew that I was gonna speak in front of a bunch of people. And if I impacted one person's life, that made all the hell that I had been just through worth it. And that was easier said than done. But at the end of the day, that's probably the most important thing that has happened to me in the last 20 years.
Well, I got to say, when I met you, you were going through this and I didn't know, because you didn't that was your job. Like, it didn't spill out into the business world. It was so impressive once I learned that, and I look back, I'm like, man, like what a pro at life, at just understanding that, like, what we were doing together at that time, you didn't let your problems interfere with what we were doing, and you definitely didn't let them become my problems. Yeah. So I learned a lot by doing that. But then, like, check this out, man. So it was a rough patch for sure. One that, like, it even put things in perspective that I thought were rough that I was going through. Okay. But this is how timing and everything works out, and why you're such a great example of that resilience and adaptability. Because, like, even then, like, you leveraged everything that you're doing today, which we're about to really get into, from that TED Talk. And it ain't like you cut it, you crushed it, and you were the first one that came out. So, like, even then, even just waiting on it to air so that these things that you're waiting on to happen can start to come into fruition. Like, I want people to understand how this works. So I don't know how many people filmed a TED Talk in that class?
16.
16. And where did yours come out in that order?
15th.
15th. So, and how often do they come out, by the way?
I mean, usually, like the one that just happened, the one that was TEDx Old Hickory, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were out within 15 days.
Yep.
I spoke in late July, and mine didn't come out until December, like 8th or 9th.
Yeah, that's it.
And I was losing my mind because I knew my content was amazing. So many people were like waiting to see it, to like give me the opportunities that I was asking for. And they're like, and this is what got held up. This is so crazy. One of the rules of TEDx is that you can't do anything to self-promote while you're speaking. If you can believe this, I got flagged and was put on delay for 15 weeks because I said, we are on the verge of.
Oh, wow.
And like, you can't do that because that's promoting your podcast. I'm like, hold on a second, for crying out loud. That's VERGE.
There it is.
Right? Our country's on the verge of a systemic issue, not we're on my podcast on the verge. And they literally flagged it for 15 weeks until they let it slide. And what they did, they deleted it. They just took those 3 words, they just took it out. I'm like, that's insanity. But I bet at the end of the day, that didn't make my talk. Other things did. And it literally catapulted me into a place that I've always dreamed of being, not knowing that was going to be the impetus for it.
I want to thank all of our loyal fans that spread across all 50 states and 14 different countries. It's absolutely amazing. Folks, help us keep spreading the word, right? Share your favorite episodes with friends and make sure that you are liking and subscribing to the Hitstreak on all digital platforms. Thanks again, and we look forward to more. It just goes to show you that everything's on God's time, right? So like, because we've been talking about that a lot today. And like, I mean, not only did you have to, you got to prove, then you're waiting on, you got to write it, you got to deliver it, you got to crush it, which you did, by the way. There's every bit of an hour's worth of value in that 15 minutes. It's beautifully scripted.
Thank you.
Beautifully scripted. And it's the easiest listen ever because it's 15 minutes. But I feel like I got a whole hour keynote of information out of it. It's one of my son and I's go-tos. This quick little trip in the car. It's entertaining. It's awesome. It's funny. It's got everything. It's got all the elements, all the right ingredients. So, if you're one of the few people on earth that hadn't heard it yet, I suggest you go listen to it because it's that good. But then you had to wait on all this stuff. And like, dude, God's time and our time's 2 totally different things. And you had stuff going on personally that the only way I know how to describe it is like, let's just say breathing down your neck.
Yeah.
Where it's like you didn't have time to wait. You didn't have time to wait, but you had to stay strong. It was almost like your faith was being tested.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So talk to me, walk me through that, because again, I talked to you throughout. Your confidence never wavered. All you did was just get tougher and stand taller.
Yeah. Well, without going into like the super details, I went through a pretty difficult divorce. And anybody that's been through that's a mean son of a gun to have to go through. Mm-hmm. Not only are you going through your own personal pain, because I don't like losing. Mm-hmm. And at first I looked at my divorce as I lost. I failed. So that was really hard. Then I failed my 2 sons. Mm-hmm. So now I'm wearing all this pain. And as much as I really never stopped giving the best of me, for some reason, the best of me wasn't working. Mm. And I could not, no matter how hard I tried to be better and be paying attention, listening to what I'm not doing, everything that I did was making things worse. Mm-hmm. So that creates a Control-Alt-Delete for me, because I have no interest in making anybody's life negative. Mm-hmm. So to navigate that with my kids was one thing. Then I had some unique situations occur when I was coaching golf in high school, in which literally, it's so hard to believe. I can't imagine how difficult it is, because golf doesn't even really mean that much, right? Compared to football or basketball, depending on what school, right? Mm-hmm. But like you get assaulted by a father before you get on a bus. The school shifts it underneath the rug. And when it came time to, they were going to go in a different direction. and they were going to change the direction that the golf program was going. They're like, I just think that you made a bigger deal out of that than you needed to. I'm like, you're kidding me, right? I'm the one that gets assaulted, and I'm the one that's made too big of a deal out of it. Huh? So like now I'm not at the school. Now I don't have a place to teach golf, and now I'm divorced, and I have to get another place to live. So I'm doing all of these things, and I'm so grateful. I'm very fortunate. I have a very nice client list. Somebody offered to help me by getting a house for me that had the place for me to put a TrackMan studio in. And until I could sell my house, he was going to front me. And then I'd take the money that I got from selling the house and then just buy it. All I need you to do, Virgil, is get pre-approved. So I go ahead, I get pre-approved. Perfect. Everything's good. The only problem was in the time span between the time that I got approved and I sold my house, the interest rates doubled and I could no longer get it.
That's right.
So now I got a friend who I'm now sticking with a pretty large price tag, and I'm leasing it, and it's not losing. But he has a tight window because he's building a house that he has to get it off his books by a certain amount of time.
Yep.
Well, interest rates never went down. If anything, they went up. And now I have 60 days. I have no job available, no place to go. And I don't have anybody that I know of that can help me in this situation. So I have the courage to ask a couple people, and somebody, so by the grace of God, on the last day that I could tell my friend who's fronted the money that I had somebody to help me, I was able to keep my house. And then bang, literally the next day, my TED Talk comes out. And then so many unbelievable things occur there. And one of the coolest things is 1 year ago, basically this week, Dave Meltzer met me here at your facility. And I have no idea who Dave Meltzer is, like literally no idea who he is. And next thing you know, I am picked up by maybe one of the most important sports executives ever.
Yep.
Because of my message that I gave on my TED Talk that mirrored how he likes to do business, and he wants to add more golf into his business repertoire, and I fit his mold exactly the way he wanted to. And now literally one of the most important figures in sports executive history says, I want you to come on a ride with me. And wow is all I can say. In the last year, it's been absolutely unbelievable fun, learning, and just getting to understand that your network is your net worth. And his network is so vast and so massive that even if 1 in 10 people in his network, only 1 in 10 play golf, I have an unbelievable Rolodex of business thanks to him. And to be able to be a part of something that special and that cool is a dream, but it really makes it that much more valuable. My level of gratefulness, not that I wouldn't have been grateful, but when you've nearly had every single thing stripped from you that mattered, to have that occur was huge for me. And I would always say, I believe I was asking God to allow me to impact people's lives past golf. And I've had a lot of people ask me, why don't you do this or that? Because you're more than just a golf professional.
Yes.
For years. I mean, people are like, dude, you should be doing something bigger than just teaching golf. But I asked for it. So what I think happened, God said, oh, so you want to help people. You want to help people through struggle. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a dose of trouble. Because if you're going to ask people to trust you, you're going to have to have endured a level of pain. So if you're going to ask me for that, you know how it works. He's not going to give it to you. He's going to make you earn it. And I I had to handle the most amount of pain that I could have ever dreamed up. And we've only really truly discussed 2 of the 13 events that stacked up on top of each other that were so unbelievable. But like when I got on the other side, the first person I got to help, if I hadn't gone through what I went through, I wouldn't have been able to do it. And that's what helped me understand, like, that was what God did for me.
Yep.
I thought that I was being cursed when I was being blessed, and that was really one of the more difficult things to accept.
That's profound, man. Like, your struggle, you were somebody else's blessing during your struggle, and that's how God was using you there. And again, it's the timing is unreal, but then that's the hardest part, right? It's the hardest part. Now, I want to go back just a little bit because I want to discuss kind of how you were able to navigate through that, keep going, because like you said, you doubted your confidence a little bit. Well, from where I stood, it never faltered. From where I stood, it actually just, you got more firm on it. It was like you believed harder and harder because it was like, dude, it's the only choice I got.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about kind of like where you found your, the will to keep going, to just go through that really tough time, and because that's the hardest time to build confidence when you're at your lowest points.
Yeah. I would say it starts with my sons, because I recognize that they're watching their dad. And the first thing I looked at is like, they're going to go through hell too at some point in their life. Nobody's exempt from the pain.
Come on.
So how can I show up in a way that not only I'm proud of, but at some point in their life, they might not be proud of it at that age, at 15 and 13, 16 and 14, whatever. But at 35, when they're getting their dose of pain and they know the whole story, they know how to be and how to handle adversity. So that's the first thing I had to do is like, how am I going to show up for my kids when I'm broken and look like I'm as strong as I've ever been? Now, I don't call that fake it till you make it. That was like, all right, man, I'm still upright. I still have a lot of clients that are relying on me to help them with their game. And I got to deliver better than I've ever delivered before, because everybody thinks that I got a chink in my armor right now because I got a bunch of bad stuff going on. So it's just a mindset. Like, I am going to bring it more than ever because I don't have another choice, because it looks like I'm down, but you're never going to feel like I'm down. And that comes from competing in sports.
Yep.
All my life. I mean, I love basketball probably more than any sport that I've ever played. But when you're 5'11" with a vertical of about 10, right, you're not going to really have a great run of basketball. But I loved it.
I feel that.
But man, when you're playing against basketball players that are legitimately basketball players, you're humbled. But I didn't ever give up. I kept fighting. Baseball teaches it to you. But if there's a sport in the world that will teach you about adversity and pain and frustration and hopelessness over hopefulness, it is golf. And so I have this large arsenal of archived footage of overcoming pain. And when you're an athlete who works really hard to be great at something and it doesn't work out, buddy, that's pain too. Man, I can tell you, when we lost the state championship in baseball when I was 17, that was the first dose of wicked pain that I can remember. I was absolutely shattered because I thought we were by far the best team. But, God doesn't care who's the best team. It's who the best team was that day.
That's right.
And so I had a lot of training because all I've ever done is compete. And of all the things that I've learned from the coaches that I've had, I didn't know it at the time that I was getting the information, but now I know it for sure now. Life is going to hit you really hard. You got to be able to get up off the mat. You got to be able to get up off the mat. And
You're
I'm just
killing it, Virg.
And I just like, that's all I know how to do. It's like, if I'm still alive, if I still have a heartbeat, I'm still breathing, get up. You can be wobbly, but get up, because you're not going to be down for long, and just keep going. And I just knew I have all the things that I really knew. I don't have any negative agenda for anybody. All I want is people to thrive. And I knew that even though I'm on a bad run and things aren't working out, every single thing that I went into, I did it with good intent. So I know intention is not the only thing that matters, but I knew that if I kept showing up with positive intent in hopes of impacting positively on people, that it was going to turn. Didn't know when, but I don't know how to give up.
Man, that's so good. I mean, literally, like I wrote down that like you found like there was a new gear within you that like that's what got it out. That's how you found it. You were forced to find it. That's the catch, man, is, you know, a lot of times it takes a response to realize that you can do something. You know what I mean? It's like it's probably a bad analogy, but like, you know, Woody Harrelson couldn't dunk and white men can't jump, you know, until he did.
That's right.
Until he did. And it was all that was different was like, it was a bigger moment. And like, so like, it was almost like the adrenaline and the moment became a part of him, and he dunked the basketball. And that's one of the most beautiful things to see is when you see somebody find that new gear. And like, I watched it real time, like happen. And that was just really cool for me. So like, and everybody should get to feel that at least once.
Yeah. And I really do believe that, you know, forced change is more impactful than change itself.
That's good.
Because when I think about forced change, the easiest thing for everybody to feel is COVID. COVID forced change on our life. And you don't have a choice. If you don't adapt, you're going to get absolutely destroyed. And there were so many people that were unfairly destroyed by the pandemic. But I mean, at the end of the day, the people that took that punch to the face and got up and used their entrepreneurial spirit to start all over again in a new way, they wouldn't have been able to be adaptable if they weren't forced into doing it.
I think they're happier now than they were prior to.
100%, because you go through that kind of struggle and come out the other side, that builds your confidence, because you cannot actually feel achievement without overcoming struggle. And I try to relate, if you are in the national tic-tac-toe championship and you're up against a 4-year-old and you sweep them 10-0, you don't feel real accomplished.
Right.
Even though you're now holding the trophy. You got to go through something to really appreciate the accomplishment.
Right.
And so the forced change is imperative every once in a while in your life, because if you're going to have the choice to change, most people aren't. It's got to be forced on you. Right. And when it's forced on you, you better hope that you have a competitive streak in you, because you got to fight. And you got to fight with level of guts and vigor, because you don't know the outcome, because you're trying to be somebody you've never been. But you got to know, you got to hang on the fundamentals, which ultimately led to my process, Get-A-Pair. And then I turned it into something I talk about all the time, is that what's the fruit that you will reap if you follow the championship process? You will get a pair. But if you don't get a pair soon, there'll be no fruit to reap at all. And that is the real truth, is that if you're not following a process to make yourself better every day, at the end of the day, there'll be no fruit for you to reap, because you're not cultivating anything. You're not watering your side of the fence, right? You're not watering your territory. You're letting it starve. And that, to me, that became my lifeblood. And now Get-A-Pair has turned into something that, you know, it's attached to me.
Do you have pear-shaped head covers yet?
I really should. That's a great idea. But I really should try to figure out new ways to market that, because it's gotten to be, we're actually watching it occur in the newest version of our political arena. And there's a level like that. What is happening in government is beginning to show up in our public eye. Yeah. There's a lot more confidence and a lot more like rolling the sleeves up and getting down to business than we've seen in the past.
I agree.
And I'm getting excited about the direction that not only our country's going, but that seems to be the world's going.
Morale is, it feels fierce. It feels good, you know? I can picture you like almost like you need a plastic pair that maybe is, gold colored or something. And it just says it just says, congratulations, you got a pair, or something. And then you just pitch it to him. Like I was walking down the hall and Virgil just pitches me a pair and I'm like, that's right.
That's right.
It's so easy. Is Titleist going to make the Pro V custom pair, that you can hit off the tee or something like that. So
that's exactly right.
I love it. And that just goes to show you, like, even though all that's done for you, the best of it's still yet to come.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's such a cool thing, man. So David Meltzer is amazing. And he came here. We were doing a series of podcasts. And you just happened, like literally you were in the building and you shook his hand, and that was the relationship that he came for. It just took all of us to help him get it. Yeah. And I love watching what you guys are doing. So first of all, talk to me about what was it like being on the Apple TV show?
Well, it's when you find yourself on national television, or worldwide television for that matter, the level of care has to be taken. Because there's going to be eyeballs that you would have never expected to see you show up, right? So yes, Dave has no interest in doing anything other than cultivating what I'm trying to do. But I had to take that, just like I did every time I was on the Golf Channel. Every time I was on the Golf Channel, I'm like, this may be the last chance I ever get to do this,
right? And
I'm going to make it memorable. So I get mentally psyched up for moments like that because I act as if I will never get this opportunity again. So I am going to absolutely crush it. That's the only mindset that I know how to do. So when you're up there, you're sitting and you got a panel of 4. So the real Brad Lee was there, and one of the world's most famous artists were there, and a doctor, and Dave Meltzer. And they're asking me questions about mindset, performance, what it takes to be great. And basically using my TED Talk and using my golf career and all the things that I've been able to accomplish, helping people achieve their dreams, and spin it into a real world lesson of greatness. All while my panel is full of greatness. So you got 5 people just interacting that are not related to golf, just related to whatever it is that they're doing, and they're great at it. And it really helps my TED Talk explode, because the whole reason why I did it was what it takes to be great. There aren't many ways to be great. You can take out words that say golf and you can put it into business or family or husband, father, what have you, or whatever.
Yep.
Any sport you want. You just take a couple words out, but the process remains the same.
That's right.
So everything that I built my TED Talk around was being shown live and in person, because Brad Lee, although he plays golf, he's not known for golf.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, you're exactly what I believe. Blah, blah. So it really helped validate, not that I needed validation, but it's really cool on a national program to have 4 super successful people say, that's exactly right.
Yep.
And, when you get a chance to be in that situation, you got a huge audience, not only in, but out. Like, people looking in the glass, like from the outside at the Wynn in
cool.
Vegas. It's like, wow. And you walk out and literally you can't even get to the bathroom for an hour, because no matter how bad you had to go, you got 100 people that can't wait to talk to you. And that's what makes it really cool, is that when you have an opportunity, you seize it, and then you get a chance to see that if you really are prepared, you can impact people's lives. And at the end of the day, I'm a coach, and there's nothing that matters to me more than impacting somebody's life.
The Hit Streak is powered by our partners at HitLab Creative Studios. Whether it's launching your brand new podcast, rebranding your current podcast, or taking advantage of any of their other content packages specifically for your social media needs, the HitLab is a one-stop shop for you. Visit hitlabstudio.com for more. You went on office hours, and now let's talk about what all that you are, what you're doing with David, because like the content is phenomenal, and I'm just like, how can I get on the other side of that thing over there?
So one of the big beliefs that I have is that we stop playing games. A lot of people stop playing games at the age of 18, or they stop competing. They could be competing, playing music. I want to be first chair of the flute, or I want to be the best piano player, or I want to be a black belt in karate. You know, there's a lot of ways to draw the line on what it takes to be great, but you're competing at something.
Mm-hmm.
Most people stop at 18. If you're lucky, you get to compete until you're 23 in college.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the last 4%. And if you're the elite of the elite, you might get a chance to compete until you're mid to late 30s. Golf does allow it to get a little bit deeper, but by all intents and purposes, your professional athletic career is over early 30s for most of the time, right? As soon as you stop competing in games, the only lessons you learn in life are from the hard knocks of life. So what David and I are doing, our message is aligned on how we like to encourage people and coach people. But my office is the golf course. And together, between his executive experience and agent experience and my golf experience, we create an environment that you get a chance to, whatever you signed up for, whether it's your family life or your personal life is struggling, your business life is struggling, or your sports life is struggling, golf provides a great backdrop for you to learn. Because the game is all about struggle, really.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it turns into an executive coaching model in which David and I play 18 holes with 3 executives, in which it starts with Virgil kind of coaching, like, hey, this is what we would do here. We hit driver up the right side, keep it short of that bunker. We want to be on the right side, give you a good angle into the pin, blah, 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 all that at the beginning.
The pro's perspective.
The pro's perspective. But as you get to like the 4th or 5th hole, we've already had our first bit of adversity, usually, probably by the first hole. But I mean, by the 5th hole, it's easy to begin to transition the talk from getting better at golf to like, hey, did you see how you reacted to your very best effort failing? That reaction caused 3 more bad shots because you got too emotional. How did you get too emotional? It's because at some point you stepped into a shot and your brain said, we're not ready because you haven't told me exactly what we're wanting to do. That turns on the prefrontal cortex, the judge. You hit a bad shot, and now the wrong part of your brain is involved in the assessment, and now you become hypercritical of yourself. Now you're hypercritical of yourself, and you can't forgive yourself in 5 minutes to hit your next shot. Now it's affecting your next shot, which then affects your next shot. And now you're 7 over par through 5, and you're a 7 handicap. Now you're pressed. Is any of that happening in your business? Are you handling, is the adversity that you've signed up for to talk about, are you getting over emotional because it's not going the way you want, and it's now affecting the rest of your team? And those are the kind of conversations that we're having by the 5th hole. By the 9th hole, now they're starting to talk about, I didn't realize like how much my preparation for something that I love, golf, is different than the preparation that I'm now taking for granted because I've been doing this, whatever business I'm in, for 20 years, and I'm not preparing like I used to. Wow. Maybe I need to get back into, I need to prepare better. Or I'm not executing because I'm not prepared as much as I thought I was. Or I have no levels of adaptability because I've been at the top of the mountain for so long that I just thought that I would just keep being here. I got lazy. I have to train myself because people are coming after. We're at the top of the mountain. I got to get better at this. So now what do I got to do? I got to get layers of championship game, not just one level. Because if you're one dimensional, there's enough talent out there in any endeavor, they can take that away. You got to have multidimensional talent. By the time we get to the 14th hole, they've already begun. They're no longer really even paying attention to their golf because they're already using the game that they're playing. And every shot they hit is reminding them of something that's going on in their personal life or in the office. And the whole point of the meetup was to be able to use a game that you love, that you pour your heart and soul into, that's eerily similar to how you probably are wanting to show up for your wife or your husband, your kids, the people that you work with, the people that you work for. All of those things are the same.
Man.
And now they're playing better golf because their mind is not on it all the time. They only think about the shot when they walk up to the shot.
That's right.
And you have to be able to learn how to turn things off and on, because you can't stay hyper-focused for very long without burning out.
Right.
So all these things are occurring simultaneously while we're on a beautiful golf course doing something that we all love to do, and we're competing. And people, one of the first things we hear is like, I forgot what it felt like to compete.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's exactly the whole point, is that you're competing at your job.
Yeah.
But you're so used to doing what you do, you've lost the vigor of the fight. And you can't fall asleep, because if you ascend to the top, the only person you're fighting is the best version of your past self.
Wow.
And if you're not, like, if you're at the top, like, that's what makes Tiger Woods so great. He was literally unbeatable for 11 years. The only person Tiger was comparing himself to was Tiger yesterday. Where everybody else was Tiger. They're looking at Tiger. I got to take that guy down. I might take him down. They didn't do a very good job of that, because he was more prepared than everybody else.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what makes it so great is it's really hard to stay at the top, because you don't have anybody to look for. So you got to be able to really good at self-assessment, which is the final part of what I do with Dave, is like the self-assessment. Now we're done. Hey man, you were 7 over through 5 and you finished 5 over for the day. What happened? How did you resurrect your round that you normally wouldn't do? This happened. Oh, well, so how can you relate that to what it is that you're doing? And almost always, they can't wait to do it again.
Yeah.
Because one, if you can't really do this with somebody that doesn't play golf or like golf. But if you have a passion for it, all the parallels are there. And then most people attack their favorite round of golf for the year with more vigor and excitement than they do their day-to-day job. But if you can flip the script, now you can give the energy, and you can give them a 2.0 version of their greatness. Wow. And that's what it's all about for me.
Well, dude, it's like I say, I actually learned a lot about what it exactly was. The content I've seen and the footage and everything else, and I'm like, man, that's so fascinating. And look at the people he's around. One day, Jeremy Newsom was in the room. At the same time, I'm like, well, I know Jeremy. Like, it's just such a cool thing to see, and it's such a great approach on the same old thing, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because I can tell you, there's some, I have buddies and folks that put on events and stuff like that, and sometimes some of these guys are going to this event to get their butt absolutely handed to them for 2 days. I like that one.
Yeah,
I like that one.
I like to sell fun. You know, at the end of the day, not a lot of people feel like the answers that you hear. Not a lot of people are having fun right now. Now, hopefully that's where we're trending in a better direction, but it's been a long run of not fun, especially since COVID, right? So at the end of the day, I try to sell fun. Everything that I'm doing in my life is to elevate the direction that you're wanting to go. And I always say, like, Virgil, what do you feel like you're doing? I said, I'm a vessel of, I'm trying to be a vessel that takes you from where you are to where you want to be, and do so with a smile.
I love it. All right, so I have a question that's a little off topic, but I've been really excited. I almost called you to get your take on it when I first saw it on the screen, but I was like, no, I'm gonna wait because we're gonna talk about it in the podcast. It's still very new. So the other day, I don't even remember where we were at, but on the screen in the place that we were at, there was a Tiger, and I think Rory was there, and all the big guys were there. They weren't on a golf course. They were hitting into a screen, and there was like 3 levels of crowd. It was awesome, and I was like, "What do you call that? What are we watching right now?" I was like, "It's golf, but it's not the same golf. What is it?"
What you're seeing is technology allowing people to enjoy the game. It's not real, but it's pretty close to real. It requires way less space, way less earth, way less water, way less resources, and it's close to real. So the TGL is Tiger and Rory's, simulated golf event, where you hit your shots into the screen. As you get closer to the green that they have in there moves. It's got hydraulics in it.
It's crazy.
And makes the green look like the green that they just hit into.
Yeah.
And then they putt or chip to it. And it's as close to real as you can get without being real.
Yep.
That's the world that I teach golf in now. You know, 7 years ago, you couldn't be a golf teacher of elite players indoor because the technology couldn't track the ball appropriately. Well, now it's like unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
Like now I got like a 22 by 24 space in my house that is essentially houses 340 golf courses, a variety of driving range setups, and wind and conditions at anything that I want.
It's incredible.
I can dial up anything. I can make it 36 degrees and the wind blowing 30 miles per hour and take you to an island golf course. Or I can make it 104 with no wind and take you to anywhere you want to go. And because temperature plays a huge role in how far the ball is going to fly, it's a different level of understanding. Well, all that you're seeing on that TV, on the TGL, is they have to, in my opinion, the tour players have to do a better job of being vulnerable and make their personalities come out. And they're not, some of them aren't very good at it.
Right.
And it's making it for poor TV. But that one that you watched, the one that was Tiger and Rory, was the first one that was unbelievably compelling. And they're starting to figure out, like, this is their chance. They got 2 hours to market themselves.
That's it.
And much like what you're an expert at, which is content creation and this building of a brand, there's 20 guys on this thing. And I think only 4 or 5 are building a brand. 6 are like trying to figure it out. And then literally 10, they don't even care.
Yeah.
And I think those percentages will hold out in every single endeavor in the world. There are people that are just going to get it. There's going to be people that are kind of like, they want to get it, but they got to figure out if they're going to do it in an imposter syndrome way or if they're going to break through with a level of self-image confidence that they can do it. And then there's just people that they don't even care.
I think you're right. You're spot on with that. I think it was Marcus Whitney. I think the numbers I'm going to share are correct, but he said, Nick, 8% of the population is what we would call early adopters. And I was like, what does that mean? He's like, it's 8% of the population will wait in line at the Apple Store for the new iPhone. Everybody else is going to wait till everybody else has used it, it worked, and then they're going to go get it, type thing, right? So it was the reason I liked that product that I saw on that TV that day is because these guys they'd obviously practiced stuff, but they've played a gazillion more rounds on a real course than they have in something like that. So it was like watching. It was almost like the playing. I could see myself in them a little bit. They were learning. You know, it was like watching them. They were doing something totally different and new, and they struggled with it a little bit more, which was, for me, it was such a cool thing because you could see them. They'd hit it. They thought they did everything right, and they were just kind of grinning because it didn't work out.
Yeah.
You know, and that wouldn't happen on a real course, I don't think, with those guys.
I agree. And I think what they're seeing is that they're really nervous.
Yeah.
It's a very different arena. And it's so hyper, like everything's on them. And everybody's looking at everybody else. And now what another component to that is they're on a team.
Okay. Yeah, I don't even know the rules.
Yeah,
really
so
understand how it
basically
goes.
each team has 4 players. Only 3 are playing that day. So when they're playing, you know, it's kind of like a Ryder Cup. Like if they hit a bad shot, it didn't just affect them, it affected their team.
Gotcha.
Which ultimately ends up affecting their pocketbook. And not that they're struggling,
Right.
but they're competitors and they're there to win. New arena. I'm not just playing for me, I'm playing for my guys. And these people are really close to us, and there's a lot of people. And this is a different arena. This is a different environment. Yes, I've got a golf club in my hand, and I'm hitting a golf ball, but I'm hitting it into a screen. I got people yelling. I got loud music playing. All of this stuff is really different. And they're expecting me to be the champion that I am.
Right.
So that's why you're seeing some people are shutting down a little bit because their central nervous system is overwhelmed by everything, and they haven't figured out how to be an entertaining version of themselves because they're not comfortable yet in their environment.
Well, there's so, you know, the game of golf's been around forever, and it's adapted and changed, but this is like a new product almost. It's almost like, you know, it's not the same sport, even though it is. It's different. And I don't know. I feel like there was room in the sport for that.
Yeah.
And it really just kind of makes sense. And honestly, too, like that, you know, they're not dealing with certain weather, rain and stuff like that, which is also good. And you know, so from a production standpoint, it's probably way easier to produce.
For sure.
You know?
For sure. And I think one of the things is like when you study the viewership of the PGA Tour, it's the vast majority is over 55 years old.
Right.
So what has the Live Tour done? The Live Tour clearly shows, because it's on YouTube, that the average age of a Live Tour is 32.
Yeah.
And a very deep under 20 number, right? So since the pandemic, golf has literally almost doubled in popularity.
Massive.
If not more than doubled.
Massive.
Right? So these simulator places, man, there's like 5 of them in Nashville now.
Yeah.
6 or 7 TrackMans, and it's like a bar, restaurant, country club golf, but it's indoor. Golf takes a lot of time. Sometimes people don't have 5 hours to play.
Yep.
You can play 18 holes on a sim in an hour and 30 minutes. And that's why you're seeing this thing on tour. They're able to knock this out in 2 hours because they're not looking for balls. Every shot rolls right back to you, essentially. So at the end of the day, it appeals to a younger audience, which helps build the future audience for the big product, which is the PGA Tour.
Yep.
And then there's this newfound competition between the PGA Tour and the Live Tour that really broke the sport in half. And whatever makes Live better is every shot's played with loud music. Everybody's got that little bounce going, and it appears to be way less serious.
Yeah.
And they have the ability to demonstrate their personality. The PGA Tour's buttoned up, old school, not a lot of talking, and they're losing viewership. Not to Live Tour. People just aren't watching golf except for the majors. Well, now what this does, this gives the tour players, which I really am standing on my head, they need to embrace. This is their chance to really become a star.
Right.
And not many of them are doing it because they haven't embraced it yet. And that's, to me, that's the cool thing. Is I think if it takes off, and I'm still 50-50 on it.
Okay.
Because it's not because it doesn't have the merit, is that maybe Tiger and Rory picked the best golfers, thinking that the golf was going to be the product, and they may have been better suited to pick personalities.
They needed Happy Gilmore.
Well, I just think that, most of the personalities went to the Live Tour. And because, this whole thing was going on, the Live Tour and the PGA Tour hate each other. Right. So they weren't going to give Bryson DeChambeau and Phil Mickelson and Patrick Reed and all the personalities that are over on the Live Tour, they weren't going to give them a platform. So what they do, they just got dry to the bone, buttoned up professionals that are give canned answers as a life lesson. Well, it's going to take a little bit of time for them to do it. But at the end of the day, when they started ribbing Tiger, if you can take down the GOAT with some jabs and get him, he's an introverted guy, you poke him, he doesn't like getting poked, and then you get a chance to see the real Tiger. He comes back, and now you got entertainment, and that's what we watched with that event. Tiger got poked, missed a putt, plus he also had a shot not count because he didn't hit it before the time clock went off. Yeah. So now he gets hit with, I'm slow, I'm a grandpa, blah, and they started ribbing him. Now we got exciting TV because one thing is Tiger doesn't play much golf anymore because he can't. Right. He doesn't have to walk here. He can just kind of hit and, doesn't have to worry about the terrain, doesn't have to worry about awkward lies that bother his back or his leg. So now we still get a chance to see the GOAT compete against, most people want to see him play against Rory a lot. Yep. But the other new guys too, but Tiger's the impetus, Tiger's the key, but they may find out if they can't get good personalities, Tiger might have to be there every week.
Sounds like they need to bring you in as a consultant. But I'm serious.
I would love to have an opportunity to be a part of it. I've seen some really cool, like they all walk out. They have their own walkout song and whatever.
That's so cool.
But they're failing because they're not taking advantage of. Man, they could market the heck out of that.
Oh yeah, it's like a fighter walking out to the ring,
and they're just totally boo. I mean, just boo. It's terrible.
Step up, fellas.
That's what I'm saying. They have the opportunity to do something on a platform that, a million people are watching. I mean, that's not the numbers we're getting on the PGA Tour unless it's a major championship. They got to take advantage of it. And I think there are people talking to them, But at the end of the day, Patrick Cantlay's good for about 19 words a day.
Yeah.
On a good day.
Mm-hmm.
So to get him to be the person that he needs to be to sell himself makes him uncomfortable. And he probably thinks he can't play good golf and be that person. And he has to figure that part out. And then when he does, forced change will make things happen. And then he'll actually become a better player in the real world, the PGA Tour. He just doesn't know it yet.
He'll be a better ambassador for the sport, everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The Hit Streak is powered by Team Hyder. Team Hyder has been serving you for 11 years and has racked up over 20 national and local awards for excellence in all areas. When it comes to finding the right health plan, we need to consider your family's needs and your family's budget. That's what we do to serve you. To look further and to book an appointment, visit teamhyder.com. I was really excited to get your perspective on it because I saw it and I was like, well, that's cool. And I was like, oh, they got some real guys doing it too. Okay, so this is for real. This is for real. And it is. I thought it was what I saw, which was very limited. I just thought that's really good. And that's got some, I was like, that's refreshing and I like it.
Yeah.
I dug it, you know? All right. So there's something that you do involving wine that I want to hear about because it's such a great idea. You continue. I'm so excited about this that I'm already thinking like I can't wait to see what he's doing in 2026. You know, like, because he just keeps on coming out with these great ideas. So talk to me about your wine events.
So I'm very fortunate. So recently I just signed an agreement with Macklemore Resort down in Georgia. It's got 2 great golf courses. It's gotten famous because the 18th hole of the original course is one of the most unbelievable views in the world.
Okay.
It's considered the greatest 18th hole in the world designed in the last 50 years.
Wow.
It's amazing. So they have a hotel, a Hilton Curio collection there, and they brought me in to be a guest instructor. But I'm like, hey, man, I can also keynote speak. And I think that what you really want me for is the Ryder Cup of wine. So like, well, tell me about the Ryder Cup of wine. And I said, well, if the Ryder Cup is the biggest event in golf, it's when Europe plays America in a 3-day match play event. So here's what I do. We're going to take 5 grape varietals. So we'll start with a white wine. We'll work to a lighter red, then a bigger red, then the biggest red, and then we'll finish with a champagne with dessert because all these are going to be served with food. So the first one we'll have, let's just say it's a Chardonnay. So we'll have an American Chardonnay versus a European Chardonnay, probably from France, but it's brown bagged. Nobody knows what they're drinking.
Okay.
So we got a glass A and glass B. So they come in, everything's brown bagged. They're pouring, everybody gets their serve.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm going to tell a story about the winemaker and the personality that this wine is supposed to come out as by the winemaker.
Let's go.
So I'll talk about the American wine and I'll talk about the European wine, but they won't know which one it is. And then I'll take that trait, that personality of the wine, and I'll pick a tour player on either side that reminds us of that personality trait. And then I'll give a golf lesson about what this guy does well that you can put into your game, or tell an interesting story about their history in the Ryder Cup. Now everybody's had a chance to taste their wine. I'm like, okay, who thought that glass A was the best? 17 people raised their hand. Who thought glass B was the best? 27 people raised their hand. The winner of the first match of Chardonnay is Europe. Europe's leading the Ryder Cup 1-0. Ryder Cup of wine 1-0.
That's awesome.
So now they'll bring the Pinot Noir out. And then they'll bring out a Rhone Valley or a Chateauneuf de Pop or something like that. Then a Cabernet Sauvignon or a Bordeaux blend. And then we'll have a champagne with dessert. Now, usually the people are not paying attention by the time we get to the Cabernet Sauvignon. And it's loud and everybody's having a great time. They'll pay attention to the golf lesson. It's kind of funny, but they won't pay attention to the wine lesson. But then it turns into this, what wine does. Wine is an art form. Yes, it's an alcohol, but it's an art. And you get a chance to experience some person's vision for what they wanted this grape to be. And then you pair it with food so that the food makes the wine taste better, the wine makes the food taste better. And that creates an environment that makes people want to share. So when people get around that, they want to share things about their life. And if there's anything we've lost in this world, it's human connection.
Let's go.
We got plenty of connection on that device, but it's not real connection. And now what people don't realize until they're actually doing is they're starving for human connection. But they think that their Instagram or their Snapchat or their Facebook is giving them the connection because they're getting the dopamine hit. But they're not getting the heartfelt, soul-filling hit of human interaction, which is what we're designed for. So now it's a 2.5, 3 hour event. But what I really get a chance to do is to watch my love of wine, my love of food, and my love of golf create a fun environment in which people that don't even know each other connect. Ultimately, those things usually breed into more business within them, which grows their business. It enhances their folder of information that they have, the people that they know, greater connections. And through 3 hours of eating great food, drinking great wine, hearing great and fun stories, and connecting, it is a turbocharged version of building up somebody's battery to take on tomorrow with, and hopefully it begins to create a habit of human connection instead of Android connection.
So, because like that's, first of all, what a great idea.
Thank you. It's one of my favorite things to do, man.
Man, I
love
like,
it.
and you've mentioned to me before, I think I just got it. Like, that's cool. Talk to me about how, like, so the folks that are listening today, they're like, I want to do that. Because by the way, so who is the kind of, is it executives? Is it, I mean, my wife and I would have a blast with that.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to the wine event, it's just, do you love the idea of understanding the art form of wine and food and how they go together? Whether you enjoy the golf story or not is probably not nearly as important as the idea of understanding the art of wine, the art of cooking, and the art of combining them. Because everybody has to eat. Not that everybody has to drink. But if you like the idea of wine and you love good food and you love to hear a storyteller, because that's another thing. It's like, I'm a storyteller.
Yeah, baby.
I like to weave stories in and out of things, and most of it just comes to me like as I'm doing it. I don't really have a script because I don't really know what's going to happen. I just like to be able to be nimble and on my toes. Those are the people. So like I would say I've done 47. I've done mostly private parties.
Okay.
In which
that makes sense.
I make a person has 6 couples come to their house, and they provide the wine and I provide the story. But what ended up happening was, as I ended up doing one that somebody that does corporate stuff's like, I'm doing that and I'm going to do it at this hotel. And that's how I ended up at Cloudland, which is the hotel, the Hilton Hotel at Macklemore. And they're like, so my next one is May the 3rd at Macklemore. And there'll be some golf involved in it as well. But that wine event is going to be massive. It's just going to be like 150 people.
Yeah.
So when we're going to be calculating it, it's going to be a big deal. But like, how fun is that?
Absolutely.
If you're somebody that loves wine and you're a business-minded person, like you're thinking about how can I do something that entices fun, engages my mind and my heart and my soul, and gives me the opportunity to meet people that I would never meet without this to further enhance my life, count me in.
That's right.
And so I would say, like I said, most of them are private parties, but now that I'm involved at the hotel, it's going to be something that's done a little bit more regular with hotel guests and the membership that's there. And between what I'm doing with Dave Meltzer and my own personal business beside that, all of these things are going to come together at Cloudland. And, you know, at the end of the day, I do these around Nashville. I used to do them at the Thompson Hotel, and I've done it at Hillwood Country Club, and I've done it at other country clubs. And do it for businesses, Christmas parties.
Oh, yeah.
But the ones that are like Ryder Cup week, every other year the Ryder Cup happens. Ryder Cup week, I will do one Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
That's awesome.
So that's the thing that makes it really fun for me, is that when it's actually happening, that's when the golfers really come out, obviously, is then they want to hear the Ryder Cup stories, the lessons that I could share that make their game better, open up the room to questions, because at the end of the day, it's not about me, it's about them. How can I be helpful? Because the wine, that's what they want to hear about. The wine, they want to taste the food, watch how it makes everything taste better, and then boom, they're off talking, and it turns into the greatest event. So it's one of my favorite. It might be my favorite thing to do.
Well, it's again, I know you did them, like the stuff going on at the hotel at Cloudland is like, that's freaking cool, man. Like, that's cool.
I like to sell fun, man.
Absolutely. Well, like, so I mean, I can't think of a better way to kind of to bring this thing to a close here. Virgil, any final thoughts as far as like, so first of all, virgilherring.com, because you got, I mean, your schedule's pretty darn busy these days. You're all over. Where does, like, when you're filming that stuff with Melter, is that all out on the West Coast?
Well, he travels around the world. So like, I just got done going to the Super Bowl with him. So we were down in New Orleans shooting all kinds of content there. I spoke. I did multiple interviews at Media Day and Radio Row, and we played in golf events with all NFL stars, right? So wherever he's at, that's conducive to me to be there. And a lot of it's like, Virgil, this is a good week for you to be here. So then I'll show up. He's got
incredible.
Yeah, it's so cool. So he's got studios. He's got the SiriusXM studio in the Wynn Hotel in Vegas. He's got his own studio in his office in California, and he's got one at SoFi Stadium in LA.
Yep, I see a lot of stuff there. Yep.
So he does that, and then he's super connected in New York City. So everywhere he goes, I can go. And now Nashville is a hotbed for him. So he'll be here a lot this year.
Can't wait for him to see what we're building not far from here. Yeah,
and that's why I'm excited to be able to share and bring all that together, because like I'm literally going to be in Mexico as a guest instructor in Punta Mita, the Four Seasons Punta Mita, for a month. I'll come back.
Tough guy.
For 5. That's good.
I'm sorry.
It's a good situation. I come back, and then literally the next week, I go to the Masters, where that's one of our biggest masterminds for Dave, is at the Masters. So every day we're flying people in, and we just recycle the mastermind and the VIP experience. They go to the Masters. We do a dinner. I talk, he talks, and then he comes to Nashville Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of the Masters, and it is one gigantic event after another, and he's coming at least 5 times this year.
Wow.
Because he has a lot of new clients. Nashville's on fire.
Yeah.
And he has got a lot of people, super successful people, that are in the same situation as me, where they want to be able to have access to that level of contacts. And he does an unbelievable job of, one, selling that for himself, but he wants to give.
Yeah.
And that giving gratefulness mindset is so contagious, because when you're around somebody that has all the tools and resources that he has, and he's just giving it to you.
Yeah.
You have to do your work. I mean, he's not going to give it to you if you don't do the work. But if you show that you care and you're going to do the work, he's just along for the ride, because he wants to have as much fun as you're having.
Yeah.
And that's what's great. And to me, so like, you want to be able to contact me. You want to be able to contact me on my phone, which is 615-579-5190, because you're going to get me every single time. You go to my website, that's got all my content. It's just got done. And there's this boy that I teach. He's not Elon Musk, but he's pretty stinking close. At 17 years old, this kid is so smart. It's unbelievable. He redid my website, and he put it all together and didn't put it online and said, you don't have to pay me for this unless this is better than what you have. And I'm like, holy cow. Unbelievable vision. So my website is phenomenal. It steers you into everything that you need. Ultimately, I send you back to my cell. But if most people I'm making an impact on LinkedIn and on Instagram. And I would have never guessed that me showing my lessons, just videotaping the highlights of the lesson. Like, what did you learn today? Look how much better you got. I would have never guessed how important that is to people who already feel insecure about the sport anyway.
Yeah.
And then of all the things that I end up facing is that most people don't come see me because they don't think they're good enough to come see me. And I'm like, no.
That makes sense.
Most people think that I only teach good players. But what I really do is I only teach people that want to be good players. You just got to want to be good, because I bring a level of heat to the arena, because I am not only prepared to teach you mechanically to be better, I'm prepared to teach you to be mentally better and emotionally better. And those three, that triumvirate of pieces, physical, mental, and emotional, is ultimately what allows you to hold trophies.
Well, I know I'm excited because we've been talking about it for a while, and I finally made the time. Coming up real soon. I can't wait to get over there and with the camera crew. And old Nick needs some help.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that, because you were a great hitter, you already have the ball and stick deal. Like, the difference between baseball and golf is there's a timing stride in baseball that there's no timing stride in golf. The ball's moving in baseball, which makes it a little bit easier actually than the ball sitting still, because it's easier to react than it is to respond.
Yes.
And all you need to know is what you need to do compared to what you think you're doing. And as soon as you get a clear, like, oh my God, why am I doing that?
Yeah.
Or, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. You already have the hand-eye coordination to be really good at it.
Yep.
It's not that you're bad. You're not bad at all. It's just like, I want to be better. Well, it won't take very long. And you'll be like, oh my God, this is easy now. I get it.
Yeah.
And that's what I love showing people, is the game is really hard, but it's not hard to enjoy.
Right.
It's hard to play on TV.
Yeah.
It's hard to get a Division I scholarship in an SEC school. It's not hard to play enjoyable golf.
That's right.
So, but there are 5 non-negotiables, and if you don't do those 5 things, forget about it.
Let's go.
This game's going to beat you to death. So my job is to make it fun first, and then as you amplify your desires to be better, I just meet you.
The Hitstreak is powered by Rack Financial. When it comes to your credit card merchant processing, Rack Financial is efficient, reliable, and trusted. At the end of the day, when it comes to processing your credit card payments, they make it simple, the way it's supposed to be. Check out Rack Financial. Well, folks, we're hanging out with Virgil Herring, virgilherring.com, on Instagram at virgil.herring. Check out the podcast On the Verge. I mean, hundreds, how many episodes? Thousands? Like, I mean, this is crazy.
I just started my 7th year. So you
were one of the first podcasters, dude.
Yeah, I got in the game a long time ago. I would have never guessed that a podcast would bring so much into my life, because I started my podcast to benefit others. I was largely had a client and friend say, Virgil, you've been on radio for 17 years. You do great golf interviews, but you're way bigger than golf. So if I give you the money, will you do a podcast but not talk about golf? And I'm like, yeah, of course. It has to be called On the Verge. So I'm like, okay, I love that idea. And then, so basically somebody fronted me everything to start my podcast a little more than 7 years ago.
Incredible.
And all I'm doing, I started was just like, I want to ask good questions that help my guest become better. And at the end of the day, all I was doing was asking really good questions and getting the greatness out of people. And every great person that came on my podcast gave me gems to put into my own life.
That's right.
And we've talked about this because it's the same thing that's happened to you. Is like, I started this to do one thing, and it turned into the greatest gift I gave myself.
Yep.
Because when you surround yourself with great people, you can't help but get better.
That's exactly
And that's
right.
what this is all about.
Well, brother, it's always an honor and pleasure to hang with you. Like, seriously, you're just one of those people that, like, I feed off of. Every time I'm around you, I leave with, like, I leave excited, motivated, but somehow with more direction.
Well, you're very kind, man. It's been I was just on another podcast with Jim Cripps, and I'm like, listen, there aren't many people in your life that come in unannounced like you came into my life. But I can promise you that there's hardly anybody that has given me an uplift in my soul and in my heart like you did in the last 3 years. So I'm unbelievably grateful for everything that you've been able to do to help enhance my life, especially at the very beginning when it couldn't get much darker. So I'm very grateful for all that you've done to help me become better at what I do. And I'll never forget it, that's for sure.
Well, likewise, brother. And again, I ain't going nowhere. I ain't going nowhere. But again, like one of the things I'm taking away from our conversation today is just like, again, I'm reminded to myself, it's like, there's another gear, man, and I'm just going to go find it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, and you keep doing it over and over again. So congratulations on everything. The last barely year has been such a cool thing to watch. I can't wait for the next year and the year after that, because it just feels like you're just getting started, man, you know?
Don't have any give up, man. Just keep going, keep pushing, because there's no such thing as perfect. There's no limit to how good you can be. And all the things that I strive to be is like, because there's no end, that means there's no end to the destination that you can travel. Right. And that's all I'm trying to see. I want to see how far I can go.
Well, folks, you heard it right there, baby. I couldn't think of a better way to end this episode right here. We're hanging with Virgil Herring, virgilherring.com, on Instagram at virgil.herring, and podcast host of On the Verge, a podcast. You got to check it out, right? So, folks, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of The Hit Streak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder. God bless.